Why was July 1st set as the date for some information that has been recently debunked about gold's reclassification? I'm not quite sure, but it does not mean that July 1 may not be a pivotal date for gold. We'll discuss it in this video as we explore. There is a lot of information that is sent out across the internet, and some of it can spread very quickly even though it's not true, even among reputable sources. And that's the case here about gold being reclassified as a Tier 1 high-quality liquid asset under the Basel III rules. It does sound like a pretty big deal, and why would somebody just arbitrarily throw out that date? But it's something that is just not true, as we find out. I'm going to be referencing a piece here from Dave Russell that gives us some insight as to what's happening, but I want you to stay tuned, and later in the video I'm going to show you a piece of gold that I just got. I think you'll find it quite interesting. There is something that's going on here that I think we have to understand, and that is Basel III and the accords that were set up since 1988. And there's some confusion there too, because he's saying that gold has already been a Tier 1 asset since 1988. Well, I think the foundation was set for it, but it actually became a Tier 1 asset in April of 2019. It just set the stage for it. Basel I allocated gold held in a bank's own vault is created as having 0% risk weighting, and that's essentially the same as cash, and that has not changed. But high-quality liquid asset isn't about capital risk. It's about liquidity coverage, and that's where the confusion starts. Some have mistaken gold's Tier 1 capital status for a pending upgrade to Level 1 HQLA, but they're not the same thing. High-quality liquid asset rules were introduced in Basel III to ensure banks can meet short-term funding needs in a crisis. They include assets like government bonds and central bank reserves, not gold. The LBMA also touched on this because they are salivating, pun intended, about the idea of a high-quality liquid asset. They say here there's a lot of online misinformation about Basel III more broadly, related to gold specifically. Various sources state that gold will be reclassified as a Tier 1 high-quality liquid asset on July the 1st. But Tier 1 refers to capital rules that were written in the original Basel Accord dating back to July of 1988, which became known as Basel I. High-quality liquid asset is a function within the liquidity rules of LCR and NSFR, which were first written into Basel and implemented by Basel on January the 1st, 2019, and fully rolled out by April. Now I'm going to get into what I think July the 1st means here later in the video, but on January the 20th, President Trump signed an executive order called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential. It reads, "The state of Alaska holds an abundant and largely untapped supply of natural resources, including, among others, energy, mineral, timber, and seafood." President Trump indicated he wants to develop Alaska's resources to the fullest extent possible. The executive order directs U.S. policy to fully avail itself of Alaska's vast lands and resources for the benefit of the nation. And as you can see, gold stocks have a tremendous gap to close compared with gold's spot price, which has soared. And I'm bullish on the gold stock sector right now. Bank of America's chief investment officer is predicting a weaker dollar cycle, as you can see, with no debt and approximately $3.9 million in cash and cash equivalents as of December the 31st, 2024, and a project in Alaska. The sponsor of today's video is US Gold Mining, trading on the NASDAQ with the ticker symbol USGO. The stock is trading as of early May about 40% below its all-time high. At its April 2023 IPO, gold was worth $1,930 an ounce. Now gold is trading at an all-time high, yet USGO's share price is still around its IPO price. down 40% from its all-time high. Their flagship Whistler Gold Copper Silver project includes 3 gold deposits with combined estimated mineral resources of 6.5 million ounces gold equivalent in the indicated category, plus an additional 4.2 million gold equivalent ounces in the inferred category. One shareholder owns 80% of the company, so this is a unique scenario. The most critical development, and in my personal opinion, as a potential value driver, comes from the Trump administration's attitude towards Alaska. This is Mike Dunleavy, governor of Alaska with President Trump, and below the CEO of U.S. Gold Mining on their Whistler project in Alaska. Tim Smith, the CEO, came to U.S. Gold Mining from Newmont, a 100-year-old gold producer with the largest gold mining companies in the world. He also worked with Kaminak, which discovered the coffee deposit in the Yukon and advanced the resource until Goldcorp acquired it for $250 million, one of the most significant buyouts in the past decade. The CEO of U.S. Gold Mining was part of the team that sold the coffee gold deposit owned by Kaminak to Goldcorp for $520 Canadian million in 2016. And while we're talking about different projects where outcomes could be different, this is the reason he was recruited to become the CEO of USGO, so he can utilize his skill set and work towards similar goals for U.S. Gold Mining. So with gold recently hitting $3,400 an ounce, the best performing major asset class in 2025 so far, and with Trump's massive executive order for the benefit of the state of Alaska, and one major corporate shareholder owning 80% of USGO stock, and with a CEO that is fit for this role, do your homework on USGO trading on the NASDAQ. So what does July 1 mean now for gold? Why would that date be used? Well, gold already is a tier 1 asset, trading equal to and on par with cold, hard cash. But nonetheless, gold also has been acquired by central banks at a record pace since 2022. So it already is highly liquid. And with Donald Trump doing things like what I just talked about in Alaska and with the mining sector, there's no question that we are going to see more and more focus on gold from here on out, because banks aren't selling any of their gold. It already is highly liquid. Central banks certainly do a trade in it. It already is being used as money in that regard. But as far as high-quality liquid asset status, well, I guess we're a ways off. That announcement's not going to be coming. That revaluation is not going to be coming. However, it could be that by this summer, and who knows, maybe July 1 may be the date that Scott Bessent may announce the sovereign wealth fund, of which gold could be a part. There's been talk of a revaluation, or maybe even a talk about maybe having some bonds tied to gold. That's something that has been mentioned by Judy Shelton as something that she would like to see done. And of course, we know where Trump stands as gold being in the golden age, and already talking about things like the golden dome, the gold card, and the Oval Office being decorated with gold all around. It's crazy. Gold is unique in so many different ways, including its color. Technically, this is not yellow. It's gold. There's a difference between yellow and gold, and no question about that. And so when you think about that kind of aspect and where we're going and what Trump is trying to do to increase production and get the economy moving again, it makes you wonder what could happen with the sovereign wealth fund. If the United States were to set up something like that, of which gold could be a part, I think in due course it may push Basel Accords to move in that direction. And who knows, it could be that something was slipped out early, and maybe they don't want that news really to hit until later on, and so early. And then so they tried to supposedly set the record straight when information was not supposed to be leaked. So in other words, it may be true that gold could be reclassified at Basel at that time. It's just they're trying to mitigate any kind of upward mobility for gold until then by squashing that, by saying it's not true. Why else would July 1 be mentioned? Now, obviously, you can think of several. To get clicks on a story, so they use fake news to do it. We've seen that happen from time to time. I believe in having click-friendly titles, but I want to make sure I back up the information with truth if I can, as much as I know to be true. And if wherever I'm wrong, I want to correct the record as soon as possible. And so right now, it's just a matter of speculation as to what could happen on July the 1st. However, it is very odd how this is being played out and how there has been a correction of the record on multiple fronts. There is another website that was posting this, and they put a note there that said this is not happening here. But yet the article was still up. So they didn't take the article down. They just put a note at the very beginning of it. To me, that's a little bit strange that they didn't take the article out, because right below where they put the correction, and by the way, it didn't say correction, it just said note. So I say, let's watch what happens with gold on July the 1st. We may be surprised. And before I go, I'm going to show you the gold piece I got from my local coin shop. It is a 2012 Sovereign. This thing is pretty cool. It's a design I have seen only online before, but of course the Sovereign is 0.2354 actual gold weight, but it has St. George slaying the dragon, kind of a different, it's kind of hard to make out, but you can see where the sword is going right through his head there. Fascinating detail on this, but given the finish on it, it's kind of hard to make out. But there it is. So a little bit of gold added to the stack, and it's something again that I had put on layaway, as I'm somewhat tapped out now, but was able to make this purchase. But let me know what your thoughts are on this latest gold piece and about what the potential is for gold in July of 2025. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.